Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of the Video Vantage podcast. My name is Haley, and I am joined by my co host, Mike. And this week, we are talking about how to create a memorable onboarding experience. Mike, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah. Hey, Haley, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I thought it'd be really fun if we could start this episode off by maybe sharing a positive or a negative onboarding experience that we've had in our career and what made it either great or not so great. Do you want to share your story?
Yeah, so I won't name any names. So I'll start with maybe a not so great story, just to kind of just we'll go start there first, I guess. But it was a smaller company that I started at, and there was a deck. There was a PowerPoint deck for the onboarding. There was an employee hand guide that was printed out like a book. It was this really thick book, and you know you're stuffed in a small room and you're on the first day of the job. It's like read this book and then sign the back of it to acknowledge that you've read it. And I'm like it's like an end user license agreement. I don't read these things. You just say yes, I'm going to do it, and then you go. And like later on, you're like realize, oh, I have to wear khakis every single day, type of thing. It was really weird experience. And then like we progressed from like this small room like reading this 100-page employee handbook to okay, now we're going to subject everybody to somebody in the company reading PowerPoint slides to you for the next 3 hours, and then we'll break for lunch, right? And I was just like, what did I do? I can't believe I joined this company. It was just really really crazy. It is just really underscored for me like the importance of that very first impression, because it's one thing when you're interviewing for a new job, and it's another when you get there and have that onboarding experience, and it just was this really jarring thing for me. So that was for onboarding. But you know uh, do you have one, maybe a good one you can share to kind of counter that?
Sure. I have a positive experience to share. I was working for a very large entertainment company, and I feel just kind of by nature, a lot of people that work for this company are fans. They've grown up watching or consuming the content that this company creates. So, in general, there's already a sense of excitement there for people to begin. And they onboard tens of thousands of employees a year, so they've got it
Wow.
pretty down pat. But they put all employees through this very rigorous onboarding program. It's long, I will say that, but it was very intentional and very well thought out. They had a lot of moments of excitement where they'd kind of incorporate videos and games and quizzes that were either entertaining or engaging. And a lot of them were also inspirational too, because they'd show moments of like the past that you probably experienced as a child and now you're
Oh,
working for this
nice.
company. So it's very nostalgic. But yeah, so they had a very well thought out onboarding program. It was just a really great way to kind of set the stage. They had a lot of very strict rules, but they were very great at communicating those rules. And they gave guidebooks and everything like that. So I'd say they had a lot of great materials prepared. And overall, it just felt like they knew the structure of everything that was going on. So it kind of helped you get a nice stepping stone for your role there. Like you had a good solid foundation and you're now ready to learn the actual basics of your role. So that was a really great experience.
Nice. I think the takeaway for me there is, you know, it's fine to have rules, right?
Totally.
I think they're important in a lot of regards, because you, while you may not need them, right, for most people, it's the outliers, those outlying cases when you do need them and they're important to have.
Absolutely.
The most important thing there is communicating them,
Yes.
right? And so I'm glad you had that experience. That's awesome.
Yes, no khakis were sprung on me during that onboarding process.
No, it said that you had to wear khakis. And I'm like, every day? I'm like,
That's a
what?
lot.
It was never enforced, by the way, but it was just weird that it was in there.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. Can you share a little bit about why you think a well structured onboarding process would be essential for new employees?
Yeah, I kind of hinted at it when I was, a moment ago, but I think the most important thing is that, when you're in that interview process, and both parties, the
Yes.
prospective employee and the company, for the most part, they're putting their best foot forward, right?
Yeah,
And you
everybody's
want to
trying to
have like,
sell
hey, you
themselves.
want to work here, I want to work there, type of a thing, right? And I think it's really important that when you spend a lot of time and energy and quite frankly money as an
Mhm.
organization to hire somebody, because like think about all the time you spend prepping the job description,
Yeah,
um, posting it, putting it online, uh, vetting, going through and sorting out applicants, all that good stuff, and then getting to the interview process and you actually hire somebody. It's a lot of time and money you spend. You want that person coming on and you're like, yes, I made the right decision. I'm in the
totally.
right place. I am ready to go. I am fired up. I am excited. I am ready to crush it and just give it my all, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to go through all of that and the person gets there and is like second guessing it, like, wait a second, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So to me, it's really like that's almost like the most important first impression you can make,
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think.
I completely agree. And I think as a new employee joining, they've put a lot on the line. They've maybe left a job that they had a stable income in to take a chance on this company. So if you
Totally.
have a not so great onboarding program and that's their first experience, they're probably thinking like, what the heck did I do? Like I should have just stayed where I was. And I feel like it can be kind of hard to fix that reputation once you've made it.
Absolutely correct. I mean, like you just said, like you want that person coming in because they probably left maybe hopefully a stable job, right? And they're looking for that stability. Because at the end of the day, like if my mind is now distracted on like how am I going to care for my family, I'm
Yes.
not thinking about how I can help the company hit their goals so that we can all be successful. Now I'm thinking about how do I get out of here,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And you don't want that anywhere in your team's mind at all. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, on that note, how do you think employee or internal communications rather intersects with the onboarding process?
To me, I think it really comes around like, as an organization, do you have, a good way to, do you have your message clearly outlined? Do you know
Yeah,
what you want to say, right? And then do you know how to communicate it? And the
totally.
communication can be in multiple formats, right? Having it documented and written somewhere is always a great place to like always refer back to, depending on the medium that you're using to communicate it. Having a PowerPoint deck, that type of a thing, or a keynote presentation, or Google Slides, or whatever your favorite product is. That's always good. Having a video that you can watch. That's I think video is a great medium to engage with somebody, especially in remote situations where it's like, hey, here's the company policy on changing your password, or
Sure.
here's the company policy on how to record your timesheet or whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
And having a video might keep I think it does keep people more engaged than just read this document that is 6 pages long that you're probably not going to read the whole thing, right?
absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think even another interesting way it kind of plays a role is outside of the onboarding process. If you have a strong foundation for internal comms in your organization where everybody in every department knows the goals and how their role ladders up to those goals, then if in your onboarding program you have other people in other departments come and speak or deliver a presentation, that's all cohesive as well. They know the goals, they know what they're working on, they know what they're working towards. And I feel like that kind of gives off the sense of stability in a way, where everybody's all on one page, they all know what's going on. Nice cohesiveness.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with how does it ladder up to the company's goals, right? And so if you have a really strong people ops department that is like setting that foundation for onboarding and
Yeah,
communicating that through the marketing team and the sales team and the dev team, customer support and all the different teams, and finance of the organization, if they all understand how it ladders up,
yeah,
it's you're just setting yourself up for success.
I completely agree. And do you think the onboarding process can get started before the first day in the office or the first day at work? And like, what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it absolutely can. In fact, my son just started his first job out of college, and before his first official day at work, he was receiving documents and he was receiving things to watch and to kind of go through to kind of set it up so that on his very first day, you know, they were hitting the ground running. There was already some context established, there was some background established, and the foundation was laid out
Yep.
so that there wasn't like, 30 people on a Zoom call going through like, oh, fill this out and, do these different things. And a lot of it
Sure.
had already been like done and streamlined. It was more of like a, hey, did everybody get that done? And everyone's saying yes type of a thing, as opposed to like, let's pause the meeting for half an hour and wait for everyone to come back and do it type of a thing. So I think it absolutely can get started ahead of time.
I completely agree. I love that point, and I feel like it almost starts the second the offer letter is handed out. Like any communication after that point could be considered onboarding, even if it's not sending actual documents out, but just checking in, making sure that you're feeling okay for their first day, giving
Yep.
them a little agenda of what their first day will be like if they haven't heard from you in a while. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of keep that communication going so the new hire doesn't feel in the dark, because that's probably the worst feeling to go into a new job just like
Oh yeah.
completely unaware of what is coming your way.
Oh, you're totally right. Because there's often a gap. Minimum probably 2 weeks between
Yes.
the offer letter and the start date, more maybe sometimes a month, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so whether it's the manager, hiring manager checking in, making sure you're okay, did you get everything? If it's a remote job, if it's not a remote job, hey, here's some places to eat lunch. Here's some
Yes.
places kind of around the area. Here's some groups that you can join when you get to the company, type of a thing.
Love
Or
that.
even like sending out like a swag kit, right?
Yep.
With a
Took the words out
T-shirt
of my
and a
mouth.
mug and all that stuff, right? Those
Yeah.
those are all those all lend to having a great that first day experience.
Totally. Builds that excitement too, kind of takes away the nerves, which is the goal.
Yeah, 100%.
And what do you think are some effective ways to introduce new employees to the company's culture, values, and mission?
Yeah, I think, um, you know, obviously, if you have like we talked about Notion in a previous episode where you have like a hub of all the information. That's a great way to do it. You're probably not going to get introduced to like an internal Slack or a Discord server until you actually like start. So that's probably not going to happen, I don't
Yep.
think. But it kind of leads, I think, in my mind, the next best thing would be video. Like, hey,
Yep.
what's the best way to show how are you? How does the company interact with each other? Like, so if you have footage of a company picnic or a company all hands, whether it's a remote one or it's an on-site one, or there was a company retreat and you did a bunch of stuff and kind of like showing that, or having different people throughout the organization saying like, oh, I like my department because, or I like my role here, or I feel valued here because, those types of like employee testimonials, it really shows the the the, um, the sentiment, right?
Yeah,
Where they can actually hear the excitement in their voice and
totally.
communicate that. So to me, I think video is a great way to do that.
Yeah, it also breaks the day up nicely too. You hear from different people, you see different people than the ones who are leading your onboarding process, and it's just a little bit of newness in what can be a very routine day sometimes.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be all video, right?
Yep.
So I only talked about a bad experience I had onboarding, but a great experience I had onboarding was a combination of like a person presenting, a couple of slides, and then a video, right, from
Right.
different departments saying like, hey, here's what we do and here's how you can help us, type of a thing. And it was having that breakup of the different mediums was really good, and it kept everyone's attention.
Yes. I love that. I've seen some that incorporate little quizzes too, or just different ways to make it interactive. So it's kind of nice to add in those different elements to keep people on their toes and keep them engaged.
Yeah, I think just keeping people's attention is what's most important there, right? And as
Absolutely.
long as the content's good, you'll have a good experience, I think.
For sure. Which is the perfect way to wrap this up because we are right at the end of our time. Mike, thanks for joining me for another week. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again next week. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Haley.